All right, our next topic is trip reports. As implied by the name, trip reports are written whenever someone is sent on a business trip. The report justifies the employee's time away from the office and records what the employee was sent to do and what they actually accomplish. Not always the same thing. It guides the billing for the work done and describes any follow up that may be required. So, of course, some companies they sent you on business trip, right? And they sent you on a business trip, right? Okay, and then when you come back you have to justify it, right? You have to give details. You are responsible basically for that trip and whatever you have achieved or whatever you did over there, and whether the goal has been achieved or not. All this information is to be given. Let me scroll down. Okay, let me zoom it further if possible. I hope you can see that. Okay. Once again, it's in the memorandum format. We can see that it's a memo, right? Okay. CHP stands for combined heat and power, but Hajun hardly needs to define that for his technical insider audience. Now, this is very important. I mean, it depends on the reader. Had this been, written for a general reader, right? Of course, it would have been explained what it stands for, CHP, right? So general readers cannot understand, but this is aimed at the technical reader. They're being written for the technical reader, right? So that's why over here there's no need to explain what it stands for. The technical reader already knows that. Let me clear it. Our CHP unit has been successfully installed at the Regina General Hospital. A problem with the absorption chiller has been repaired, but the system will have to be charged by a local contractor and will be tested by the RGH facility manager. Her report is expected within a week. Now, the summary provide the highlights within an emphasis on what will happen next. Job is not yet done after all. So again, you have to give the gist in the summary section. Then here the context, where, what, how long, with whom, and so on. Aside from including the filling information, the section sets up exactly what the scope of work was on this trip, and the service connection, for instance, had already been prepped. So this is something very important, the context. Why? Because this exactly tells the reader that what has been achieved, what is left, what was to be achieved, basically why the person was sent abroad. Okay. And what was the whatever the details, the required details, they actually give the full picture about what whether the trip has been successful or not, right? And what has been achieved through that trip. Following, now the work done section begins here. It tells more or less chronological story to make it easier to follow what you did and why you did it that way. Following uncrating and inspection, we moved all the components into the facility utility room in the basement. Assembly took 4 days as expected. All service connection had been okay. You must note that over here, generally, right, especially in this paragraph, in the background paragraph, and where they're telling about the details, the past tense is being used. So you really need to watch your tenses, right? Because when you're writing reports, you may have to shift your tense, right? So you need to have a clear time marker over here when you're shifting to another tense. However, when we tested the assembled unit, we discovered. So what did you get done according to plan, right? The work done section answer the following question generally in this order, right? Okay, let me scroll down what questions normally are covered here. What workarounds did you have to employ to get things done? Right? What extra arrangements you had to carry out? Right? Okay. For example, here, however, when we tested the assembled unit, we discovered one problem. So there was a problem. The absorption chiller for the AC didn't work after a number of mechanical tests that revealed no problem but took most of a day. I thought it might be a problem with the fluid. When I tried to get a pressure reading, let me clear this one. At the bleed wall, I got a reading of zero, right? And then I call this, and in fabrication, he assumed me there that records indicate that the unit. He assured me, not assumed, that the unit had been fully charged and sealed prior to shipment. He suspected a leak. Visual examination didn't show any problem, so I soaked the condensation coil condenser, charge the system with it. Why this information is required? This shows that the kind of efficiency or the performance, right, he displayed over there, right? So this adds to the credibility of the employee also, right? This shows his efficiency and all that, right? Okay. I have engaged a local now you can use you can see over here that the writer is using the pronoun I, right? So this means like he wants to, tell his role, the role he played, right? And of course, this is being a. It's true, right? Because he did something significant over there. And B, of course, when he's sharing what how productive he was, right, during his trip, right, it adds to the credibility, right? Of course, he'll be in good books then of his organization, and of course he wants to give the impression that he has been very productive, right? Okay. And he actually, the organization, he deserved to be sent over there, right? Because he's being productive. Okay, I have engaged a local refrigerator specialist and all that, and then RGH facility manager Sandra. This will test the system within the week and report directly to you. So what remains to be done? The next step is to see whether the system will work to this absorption chillers has been charged. Sandra will make the report within a week. So anything which is related to future, any step will which will be taken, right, and resolve which will be taken and which will resolve the issue, right, that is to be mentioned also. Let me admit one student here. All right, I hope you've understood the trip report, right? Okay, and we can see that over here mostly it is written in the we can see that yeah, it is written in the past tense, right? Okay, and you may have to shift the tense, and you have to do it wisely with logic where it is required, right? Let me clear all of this. Note that traveling across town doesn't constitute a trip, but a commute. A trip is generally overnight or outside of your home city. When you commute to a site within your normal reach of business, just record the location and mileage if applicable in the context section of the report. So if in fact you haven't traveled anywhere to do a job but still need to report on having completed the job, we call it a completion report, a trip report without the trip as it were, right? Is that clear? So that means something was assigned and you have done that, right? So it's a completion report. So Please have a look at this one. Where did you go and for what purpose? Right? Did you achieve your purpose? If not, what happened and what remains to be done? So, what were the purpose of the trip? Now, remember that this is like kind of conversation. This is basically how you write in a report, right? So, you can use either, but this one is better, right? On what authority, on whose authority was the trip carried out? How does this trip fit into the conduct of business, project number, client name, location, date, time, duration, other people involved, right? And what follow up is required, or do you recommend as a result of what happened on the trip? So these are things are to be shared, right, when you are writing about either a trip or a completion report, right? Okay, so basically they're trying to tell you that when you had to complete the job, right, and you probably didn't go on any trip, right, then you can omit some information. For example, what kind of information? Commute to site within your normal region village, just record the location mileage if appropriate in the context section of the report. That's all. You don't have to give much context there, right? Okay, then incident and accident report that I'll cover in the next lecture. I think that's enough for today.